In Genesis 45, Joseph finally reveals himself to his brothers and shares with them who he is. And I'm going to read from verse 4. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come close to me." When they had done so, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next years there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to save lives by great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler over all of Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, 'This is what your son Joseph said. God has made me lord of all of Egypt. Come down to me. Don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me, you and your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute.'" So Joseph here shares to his brothers basically the doctrine of the sovereignty of God. That we might look at situations, we might point to people wronging us and be like, "How dare them?" He doesn't point to his brother's hair and say, "How dare you do that to me? I'm going to repay you." He says, "Look, you know, it wasn't your doing, it was God's doing. In the big picture of things, it was God who allowed you to do what you did, to send me here to save lives, to preserve you and your family, and to preserve the remnant, to preserve the lineage of the Messiah, really, and to ultimately have a bigger plan than they could have ever imagined." So Joseph doesn't hold bitterness, he doesn't hold grudges, he forgives. Why? Because he understands maybe not the entire master plan of God, but he understands that God has a master plan. And at least in this one instance of famine, of providing to save lives, he sees the end result. And so for us, sometimes we see the end result, and other times we don't. We just have to trust. But for Joseph, he's one who trusts in the Lord through good times and through bad, and understands no matter what anyone does to us, it is going to be used by God for his glory, so long as we act rightly and don't act out of hatred and bitterness and sin. May we think on these things. Have a blessed week.